Hello YouTube. The country of Tajikistan is nestled between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan to the north and west, China to the east, and Afghanistan to the south. Mountains cover 93% of Tajikistan's surface area. The two principal ranges, the Pamir Mountains and the Altai Mountains, give rise to many glacier-fed streams and rivers, which have been used to irrigate farmlands since ancient times. Because people have lived in the area we know as Uzbekistan for thousands of years, maybe more. In 2021, rare inscriptions in the undeciphered language were found in the mountains near the city of Dushanbe. Russian scientist Pavel Luria took up the task of solving the mystery. Pavel Borisovich Luria is the head of the Central Asia section of the Oriental Department, philologist, specialist in ancient Iranian languages, archaeologist, head of the Panji-Kent expedition, and the curator of the Khwarezm collection. The unknown Almosi writing was discovered by Tajik scientists during the two expeditions and immediately attracted the attention of the international community. The mysterious find presumably belongs to the heyday of the Kushan kingdom, an ancient empire of the 1st to 3rd century Common Era, located on the territory of modern Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. The huge state existed for almost 350 years. It had diplomatic ties with Rome, Persia, and China, and its cultural base was exotic, a fusion of ancient Greek heritage from the Macedonian period, local Eastern Iranian and Indian, including Buddhist traditions. However, despite its enormous influence and rich material heritage, all historical information about the Kushan Empire is relatively small, heterogeneous, and contradictory. Therefore, the Almosi find is especially important for studying the ancient history of Tajikistan. However, it turned out to be difficult to read the writing. One of the languages in which it was written has not yet been deciphered. Pavel Luria, as I said, archaeologist, philologist, also head of the Central Asian sector at the St. Petersburg Hermitage Museum, he undertook to solve this problem. And this researcher told Sputnik Tajikistan publication about the difficulties scientists have to face when deciphering ancient languages. And what they say about the unknown past of Sogdiana. So let me just quote what was revealed, questions and answers. What is the place where the find was made? In fact, it is a rock with inscriptions adjacent to the southeastern corner of a stone structure measuring 120 by 50 meters. There are burial grounds for about 40 burials inside the stone structure. This place is located in a remote area on the Hanaka River, high enough in the Gisar Mountains at 2,950 meters. So that you understand, the expedition that was there in July passed through the snow that had not melted. The Hanaka River itself is actually not only a geographical but also a historical watershed. To the south of it is the historical region of Bactria, and what's above and to the north beyond the pass is Sogdiana. And it is very important to remember that this is the border between two ancient regions, the watershed that bounded Bactria from the north. There's a very similar monument to Dashtina Mur, which we constantly compare with Almosi. It is also located on the border, or rather on the pass, which leads on the one hand to the Hindu Kush, the domain of the Kushans, and on the other to Sistan. And who actually discovered the inscriptions in Almosi for the first time? For this, we would like to thank and bow to the staff of the National Museum of Tajikistan and the Ahmad Donish Institute of History and Archaeology, because it all started almost as a volunteer project. Several scientists went on their personal vacation to the mountains, having heard from a local shepherd that somewhere here at the height there are some ancient inscriptions, and none of the locals can read these inscriptions, not even the most learned olim. We found them, evaluated them, and organized a centralized expedition. And as a result of these two expeditions, invaluable results have been obtained, which advance our knowledge of antiquity in Central Asia one step further. What are these inscriptions? There are only three of them. One, apparently fallen from a cliff, was written in Bactrian, which used the Greek alphabet. The fact is that Bactria, the region uniting the south of Uzbekistan and the north of Tajikistan, was very Hellenized after the campaigns of Alexander the Great and was subject to Greek influence. And this Bactrian, East Iranian language, which was written in Greek, existed in the region until the 9th century Common Era. Two other inscriptions located on the rocks were made by the so-called unknown writing, which remained unknown literally until recently. It looked completely incomprehensible. In some ways, it resembled the Indian Kharoshti script. In some ways, the ancient Aramaic alphabet. A similar inscription, but almost twice as large, was found in the aforementioned Dashti Navur. It was trilingual and combined Greek writing, the North Indian language of Gandhari, and this unknown writing. The letters themselves were inscribed on a stone patina. When a metal object or even another stone is scratched on the smooth black surface of the stone, the scratched symbols turn red. This technology does not require much effort, but writing has been preserved for thousands of years. And what were your first steps in deciphering this find? The Bactrian language, especially of the late period, is generally quite well studied, but the records of the earlier Kushan period are also read and understandable. So on the first Bactrian inscription, the word "this" is written in Greek letters, then some other incomprehensible word, and then the words "King of Kings" are inscribed. I must say that the same conclusion was reached by my German colleagues who were engaged in decryption in parallel with me. Further, according to Joe Cribb, a wonderful British numismatist, and other colleagues, it is written Vimo Takto. This is the name of one of the Kushan rulers, the grandfather of the legendary Emperor Kanishka. Vimo Takto himself did not write his name on the coins. Instead, the inscription Soter Megas, meaning Great Savior in Greek, was minted there. The main interest was in how to analyze an incomprehensible letter in an unknown, incomprehensible writing in an unknown language. And here we were lucky. There is a text with a familiar Greek Bactrian script, and there are two unknown inscriptions, the content of which should be the same. A bilingual inscription similar in content is generally the most reliable tool in this case, since if there is at least some fragment in an understandable language, then you can try to decipher the incomprehensible one. We are working in this direction. At first, I received unknown fragments from among these three Almosi inscriptions. I sent them to Turkologists to make sure it was a Turkic runic. Then I sent to the Indologists, a specialist in India. Then they sent me a Bactrian inscription. I immediately read the King of Kings and realized that the remaining inscriptions must be somehow close to the Bactrian ones in Dashti Navur. But the origin of the writing and their structure remained unclear. Yes, the very origin of writing remained unclear. And in order to overcome this ambiguity, it is necessary to create a whole body of such records. So besides these recordings from Almosi and Dashtenavur. There are several other similar ones. The most famous is the writing on a silver ball from the Issyk Kul Mound in Kazakhstan. There are also inscriptions from Ay Khanum, the largest city of Greco-Bactria, and from Kara Tepe, a Buddhist monastery in Termez, from the Kushan center of Sukh-Kotal in Afghanistan, and from other places. As a result, when German researchers and I independently began to collect this unknown data together, it turned out that there were actually quite a lot of them. It is just that no one published detailed information about them, as it was completely pointless. But when a large body of texts is assembled, there is something to compare it with, to find the key, so to speak. As it seemed to me, this body of writing, which numbered about 400 characters, needed to be analyzed mathematically. I came up with a code for this, and my colleague Maslinsky from the Institute of Russian Language and Literature of the Russian Academy of Sciences and I started working this mathematical linguistics. As a result, it turned out that there are only 58 characters, plus there are special characters for vowels. Collectively, this is a lot. Of these 58 characters, 25 are used quite often. Next, I noticed a symbol that looks similar to our European unit and is present much more often at the beginning of a word than anywhere else. Since the very principle of graphics was known to us by that time, it was an alpha-syllabary, a letter where a consonant was written out to which a sign denoting a vowel is attributed. Then the sign that often appears at the beginning of a word, apparently a vowel. Well, because inside the word the same vowel was conveyed in a different way. In addition, it was possible to establish punctuation marks, a long line and a short line. They didn't separate words from each other, but phrases. After we established this, it immediately became clearer where the name of the year, the name of the month, and the name of the day could be indicated in that writing. And what exactly, in your opinion, is the significance of the complete decoding of the writing system on which the inscriptions were made in Almosi? Any detailed information about the past is important. Judge for yourself. You come to the museum, you see some exotic exhibit, but there's no explanation, no description for it. Would the visitor be interested in looking at it? I don't think so. But if we take this particular case, we're interested in finding out what languages were spoken in this region and why there are so many written sources in several dialects at once. This gives a very meaningful idea of how rich this territory of Bactria was in terms of ethnicity, religion, and everyday life. Moreover, these monuments are slightly out of line with the classical written monuments of the Kushan period, which is why they're of particular value. It is especially important that the conclusions that the group from the University of Cologne, and the Berlin-based Indologist Harry Falk independently came to, often using different methods, are in many ways similar to each other. This shows that we are on the right track. This is true only if we take the later small Kushans of India, which were no longer related to Central Asia or even Afghanistan. Now, let me give you a few words of description of how it all started, just out of curiosity and respect for people who find such interesting artifacts. Given the natural landscape of Tajikistan, archaeologists do not always have the opportunity to identify new monuments, especially those located in the hard-to-reach mountainous areas. Fortunately, this can be done by local residents who report them to archaeologists. For example, in 1932, a basket with documents was discovered by a local shepherd, Yura Ali, on the Mount Mug. Later, it turned out that the find was sensational since it was the first text documents in the Sogdian language found in the territory of the historical Sogd. Subsequently, The study of these documents led to the discovery of the settlement of ancient Penji Kent. A similar situation happened this time. Hai Tali, a resident of the village of Shol, Hisor Sanginov district, there were many inscriptions of an unfamiliar writing in the mountains, and that's what he reported. Interested in this news, Tajik scientists went in search of the reliability of this information. Their expectations were justified. Indeed, inscriptions in ancient writing were carved on the rock. The rock with inscriptions is located on the northernmost part of the gorge, near the right tributary of the Almosi River, in a very picturesque place known among the local population as Khoja Mafraj. Archaeologists managed to establish that a rock with inscriptions adjoins the southeastern corner of a stone structure measuring 120 by 50 meters. In the northern part, 1/3 of the area inside the stone structure is occupied by a burial ground where there are more than 40 burials of various sizes. The monument is located at the altitude of 2,950 meters. Further north are the 4,000 by 4,600 meter peaks of the Gisar range, stretching from east to west. The inscriptions were made on a pyramidical rock outcrop. According to the informant Sanginov Haitaile, when he was there for the first time, there were many more inscriptions. Unfortunately, due to avalanche, fragments with inscriptions fell to the foot of the cliff. The surviving part of the inscription is carved on a flat rock surface in 3 lines, where there are 23 letters. Upon arrival, reconnaissance work on the ground was immediately undertaken, the results of which were crowned with success. A second stone with inscriptions was found, where the text is much better preserved. Here the inscription is embossed in 3 sections, where in total there are 36 individual letters. According to linguists who read ancient writings, the text on the stone is engraved in a writing that is still unknown to science, which remains undeciphered. Earlier, the same inscriptions were recorded, for example, in Dashti Navur in Afghanistan. Tajik scientists hope that the inscriptions found in the Almosi Gorge will help linguists decipher this until now unknown script, and they would find out the true meaning of the ancient text. Soon, during the second archaeological expedition, a 3rd stone with inscriptions was discovered. For help in reading, they turned to Nicholas Sims Williams, one of the leading specialists in the study of Bactrian language. This stone contained a text written in Greek in Bactrian. According to Nicholas Sims Williams, the inscription is translated as follows: "This is of the King of Kings, Victo Tacto." Unfortunately, only a small part of the text has survived to this day, but nevertheless, it provides scientists with valuable scientific material. The most important thing is the surviving words Shah in Shah Bima Tacto, that is, King of Kings Bima Tacto. Shah in Shah is traditionally the highest ruling title of Iranian kings. Bima Tacto is the son of the founder of the Kushan kingdom, Kujuli Kadfiz, whose reign falls 80 to 90 years Common Era. Thanks to this, it is possible to establish the exact date of the inscription on the rock. The discovery of new rock inscriptions in the Almosi Gorge replenishes the archaeological map of Tajikistan with new monuments, along with famous inscriptions discovered from Surkotal and Rabatak in Afghanistan. It is of world importance. That's what I wanted to let you know about the discoveries and information that just almost clicks with each other. The last that I told you about is from an article years ago in Tajikistan, and of course Pavel Lurier's work was the first part of this video. My interest in all of this is due to the fascination with Alexander the Great's exploits in Central Asia. And there's more I want to get to later. Also, as you can see in my other videos about Tajikistan, there's plenty of paranormal phenomena in the area that almost unknown in the West, but should be. It's very interesting. And especially in view of one of the incidents about, let's see, different life form based on principles that human life is not based on. You can find it in my channel. Just do the Tajikistan search. I will continue talking about Central Asia and bring forth more interesting information. And not only, of course, about Central Asia, but Eurasia in general, and then separately Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Eastern Europe, and of course such parts of Russia as Yakutia, as of course Siberia in itself, and very unusual phenomena discovered there. And not to forget the Far East. So there's plenty to do and to talk about. And if you like my research, please kindly support me through the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please subscribe to my video and make sure they notify you of new videos when they come out. And please like my videos. Thank you for your attention to my work.